Hey folks, my name is Girish, Bali, the host for Back to Basics, another Back to Basics for another week. Today we are talking about sales and communication and success. Now, all these three words are summed up into this episode with this author that I've spoken to weeks before this episode, and definitely few minutes before the episode. An amazing gal, amazing person to chat with, and everything else. So let's bring LeAnn into the call and just welcome her with way applause to her. So thank you again. So LeAnn, how are you? And thanks for coming to Back to Basics.
Well, thanks, Girish, for inviting me. This is great. I'm doing great today. I'm here in Austin, Texas, and this is what is today, January. What are we on? January 20th? And anyway, we have a little cold front coming through, so now it feels more like the north, but otherwise
Yes.
everything's fine.
Yes. Thank you again, LeAnn, for coming on the show. I usually ask my guest the same question, and I'm going to ask you the same thing before we get into all the episodes, right? What does Back to Basic mean to you?
You know, when you look at when you think about back to basics, when it comes to communication and sales, I think really back to basics is being one-to-one with relationships. You know, right now we're relying so much on all the technology that we forget there's people right in front of us. I mean, how many times have you gone out to lunch with a good friend of yours and then they're constantly picking up the phone and you're thinking, I'm right here, talk to me. So back to basics is getting back to basics of just communicating face to face and directly to people instead of texting and not even talking to anyone on the phone.
I totally agree. Thank you again for LeAnn for explaining that. And if you don't mind, I'm going to read at least one sentence out of, when I asked you this question, what does Back to Basic mean to you on the calendar when we scheduled this? You said, we always hear about the golden rules and how that is the key to success. So, success is a big word for you because that is the name of the book, which is Your Way to Success.
Right.
But what does success mean to you?
You know, to me, success is when you look at it in different aspects too. In sales, of course, it's actually landing the sale or closing the sale. That's success, because then I know when I've worked with a client, I've been able to help them supply their needs and achieve the result. Success in personal life, it's when you set the goal and you reach it, actually, whatever goal that may be. I suppose that's the broad term of success. But you brought up the golden rule, and we all say treat others the way you want to be treated. Right. And I think we ought to look at what they call the platinum rule. It's really taking it a step further. It's treating others the way they want to be treated. And that's really where the core of sales is. It's not taking my presentation and trying to cram it down your throat or, oh, listen to me. What I say is wonderful and I know you're going to like it. And instead, it's understanding how you communicate, how you need to receive the information. And it's more about you than it is about me. And a lot of us will miss that.
Absolutely. So basically, you're saying success does not really mean fame and money. It also means respect for one another, because that's also a success too at the same time. And people will respect you if you do the right work. Am I right on that?
Yeah, it's, and success, I think so many times in our society, we always, fame and money, that's the only way to success. And I don't agree. Everyone has a different, different level of success. So, success to you I may want to reach higher, or I may say, I'm fine with this form of success. So it's really whatever your goal is. And of course, we have all different goals, with, in your personal life, in your business life, with your health, and you set a goal. And when you strive and continue to move toward that and achieve it, that is success. So whatever that may be for you, that's success. And that's one thing that I think is important to communicate to everyone, especially our youth, because they're seeing, what's all being shown on all these different social media sites. And too many of us think we have to live up to that. And that's not true. Let's be ourselves and what it is that we really want, because we all have so many gifts and skills. That my gift is, I know my gifts are a little different than yours. And let me go ahead and improve upon those and be better at that. And that's success.
Yeah. Thank you again for explaining that, because I wrote an article on LinkedIn a couple of weeks back regarding social media and how to use those tools in a good way instead of, as you explained, wasting time, I guess. So there are certain ways to use a social media tool and to use it wisely and constructively and successfully. So that's up to you, how you want to go and portray that. I mean, that's for my audience to understand that too, LeAnn. So thank you again for that.
You're welcome.
So regarding communication and sales, obviously it goes hand in hand. Is not one, is first and high priority versus the other one. I think communicating with you is, let's say if I want to sell something, how do I communicate with you? I mean, I'm not a good seller, but let's say if I want to sell a pencil, what would you say to that person? What are you trying to explain, describe? Does that make sense?
If I wanted to sell you a pencil, or you want to sell me a pencil?
Yes. Yeah. You selling it.
If I was selling you a pencil, so many people will hold up, the pencil, and they'll say, oh, you're going to love this because, and then they start to go into all the features of this pencil. And that's not where I start at all. I would first start and say, Girish, you're looking for a pencil. How are you going to use it? Are you mechanical? Are you more of an engineer, or is it just day to day? How are you first going to use that? Because there's a lot of different types available, and we want to make sure we get you the right product that you're going to be happy with. So that's where I start. Is, again, it goes back to that platinum rule. What is it that you're looking for? I've been in commercial furniture sales for, over 30 years. And it's always starting with, instead of saying, hey, here's this blue color scheme, you're going to love it, and put it in their interior. What every client has is a different facility. So first, it's never a cookie cutter. And every client is their operation is going to be different. So it's first understanding who they are, how they operate, what are their needs, what's their budget, because there's different products on the market that can get their end result, but what's going to be the right one for them. So I never walk in with, this is what you want, hold up a brochure and this is what you should have, because it's not always the case, or we need to modify some of that. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does. It does, LeAnn. Thank you again for explaining that. So let me.
And I think it just dawned on me when people always say they don't like sales because they don't want to be that used car salesperson.
Right.
And I bought a used car a few years ago, and I didn't have that experience at all. It was more of how I sell. It's consultative, finding what the needs are. But the old style used car salesperson, they're the ones who, they have this car and their goal is to sell it to you, whether it's the right car for you or not. And they're just going to push it on you. That's not professional sales in my definition. It may be successful on their end. They're not going to get that continual repeat result, though. I always say, I don't want to be that one-hit wonder in sales. I'm here for the long term, and I build a relationship with all my clients, and they continue to come back so that I can serve them with all their needs.
I totally understand. It's been more than a couple of years, which when I go to a retail store, and for any store, I'm not really going to name any of these stores, but many stores that I've gone to, including restaurants, I think I'm looking more for customer service and how they treat you, because they're actually selling their product, right? So if they're, if they give you a little attitude, or they're tired, or they're not saying thank you, the basic stuff of that, for me, I think that's a icebreaker that, I'm not going to go and buy anymore or boycott that restaurant, because I'm not really sure if it is my age talking or maturity talking, or we should just respect one another. Doesn't matter what age. So what are your thoughts on that part?
Oh, yeah, I agree. In any retail store, well, most times when we walk into a retail store, we're doing that because we need something in the store for the most part, or we're looking to see if they have something, or we may
Right.
just be looking to see if it's what we want, but we're there on purpose. Most times we're not just wasting time. So the salesperson, when you walk in and how they treat you, it's, if they ask, is there something in particular you're looking for? May I help you? And guide you to that. And some are more knowledgeable on items than not. And I always appreciate the salesperson who, I don't really like that brand. I know it's talked about a lot, but I think this one's better. And this is why I've found that. So that's my suggestion. And I'll do the same with my clients. I've talked them out of sales at certain times where they think, hey, I need to buy this piece of furniture or whatever it may be. And I always ask the question, how are you going to use it? What is it for? And a lot of times what they think they may need, because maybe they saw it somewhere, and a lot of times they don't realize what else is on the market, because a salesperson is going to know their niche, their product, their service. And that's why we like to work with the salesperson. We expect them to know that. So when we ask that question, it's, okay, what can you help me with? What else can you show me? And a lot of times it's like, I don't think that product's it's not going to do what you want it to do. This is a better option, or what we could do is this. And, a lot of times I don't make money on it. It might just be, hey, let's just use this product and repurpose it, although it's there for the client. And again, when you build that relationship with any of your clients and prospects, they're going to stay with you. And so I always look at the long haul instead of the immediate sale.
Absolutely. Totally agree with that. Thank you again, LeAnn, for explaining that. Now gets back to sales, if you don't mind. Let me ask you this. Too much of questions of the product, does that put you off a little, or as a customer, do you think that if you ask too many questions, right, because you're selling your product, do you think that I'm getting a little too much overwhelmed with questions?
Well, that's where the communication skills come into play, and understanding personality. These are all the different things that I've studied and now I teach and coach. It's understanding, your personality type and what you need to be able to make a decision. So there's some who are high in knowledge and they want to know all the details. Like if you take a height adjustable desk, there's some that a lot of times it's in the technology departments. They want to know where the motor came from, where it was made, how fast the thing will move per second. And then there's someone on the other side where they're more, I just want it to run and make sure it's good. So they don't need all that technical. So it's understanding your prospect, understanding communication, so that I can also read your body language and know, okay, if I've gone too far, asked too many questions, you're kind of overwhelmed. And I don't ask questions just to ask questions either. Some salespeople they try to chat up to get to know you, and they're not understanding, who they're in front of. Because I've had some salespeople sell to me and then they start chatting and on different stuff. I'm like, look, I'm just here to understand the basics. Can we get to it? And if they don't, and listen and follow my lead, because I'm the client or prospect, they annoy me, and then I don't want to buy from them. So that's where in sales, again, it gets back to basics on it's a relationship. It's having that relationship with your prospect and understanding their needs. And it all comes back to communication. Girish, that if you have a communication, that soft skill, public speaking, it actually, it's one that we don't study or aren't taught. And yet it's one that when you perfect it, or the better you get at it, can increase your earning potential by 50%. So communication is a very powerful tool and skill that all of us will continue to be more successful in whatever our career is by working on our communication skills.
Yeah, thank you again for explaining that. So basically you're saying, instead of asking probe questions to annoy the crap out of the other person, it's easier to chit chat to understand that person, that what they're looking for, so then you can direct them in the right way, because that's also a probe question too. Am I right?
Yes. Yeah, you don't just, you don't want to ask a question just to ask a question.
Right.
Now, I will say when I go into commercial accounts, I'm curious and I like to understand more of who my client is. So I may ask questions to understand who they are. Like if I came into your work environment, I say, this is an interesting environment. I'm not understanding what your company does. Would you explain to me what you do?
Sure.
Because understanding what you do, then I know more of how I can help you better. So it's twofold. I'm curious as I like to know who I am working with. And it's fascinating, all the different clients and the products and the services that they do and provide. So I enjoy that. And it's kind of fun where I feel like I'm a part of it as I'm working with them too. So those aren't questions that are just a question to ask a question. And I think any salesperson would need to understand that early on. What I've seen is some newer salespeople, they're in their company and their company teaches them how to say and present this presentation, this canned presentation. So they go out and they start to do that, provided and with every prospect they can get in front of. And the skill they don't have, again, is going back to that communication and it's understanding who's in front of them. So the presentation that the company has them memorize is a good one, although they need to know how to weave in and out of it, depending upon who's sitting in front of them.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you again. But you were going to say something. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just, when you go back to personality science, in sales, I'm sure you've heard sales is a numbers game.
Yes.
Ask for as many no's and you'll get a yes. Well, I didn't enjoy playing that game in sales. And when you understand communication, when you understand the person in front of you, and the basics are actually personality science. So you figure if there's 4 basic personalities and you have one presentation, if you're going out there and you're doing that same presentation to all 4 personality types, well, it's going to hit one, but the other 3 you'll fall away. So no wonder they say sales is a numbers game. If you pause though, and as I give that presentation, and if I'm in front of you or some other coworker, your personalities are going to be different. And I need to modify how I'm presenting so that you can be able to grasp the information and we build that rapport. Because the faster we could build that rapport, you're going to trust me. And the sales presentation and communication will go so much smoother. And therefore, we both get the result we want, that you get the product or service that you're looking for. And I win too, because I'm able to serve you on that.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you again for explaining that, because, sometimes there are different personalities and different ways to go and ask questions to a lot of different people. And I think you need to understand the psychoanalysis of how the other person is and how to maneuver towards the questionnaires. I think that's the right word, I think.
Now, I like that maneuvering. You're correct. And in sales, a lot of us we're not taught all of these, I don't know, they're not tricks. They're just different skills. And it's not taught in sales, and there's a lot of wonderful sales courses. And I've taken a lot of them where they teach you the systems and how to sell. What we're not taught though, is how to say it, meaning how do you present with your body language? How do you, understand your prospect? And that's where I learned kind of through trial and error. And I realized that the better my communication skills became, my sales continued to increase as well.
LeAnn, do you think it's more of the number of experience that you have figured out that this is the science? Because we have technically have not been taught this in school, that this is how you're supposed to react or ask when you want to go on sales, when you want to go on marketing, when you want to be an entrepreneur. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, well, you're so right. We aren't taught. And yes, it is. Sales is a science. It's also an art. And that's where I think people struggle, is if you just focus on the art of sales and you don't understand the science of sales, you're going to be half successful. And the same with the other.
Yeah.
And, sales has been given a bad name, or people think it's so easy. I've had some people come on with my company where I've mentored them, and they see what I can do, and they think, oh, that's really easy. That they don't realize is, with the clients that I've had, I've worked that through for years and built that up. It didn't happen overnight.
Of
I'm
course.
sure you've heard that. Yeah, I was an overnight success. It took me 20 years to get here. It's that
That's
type
right.
of thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's like saying that if you listen to any of the Hollywood stars, they finally became a star after this one hit movie, but then we don't realize that he or she has been doing this for years,
Yeah.
even before, till they got to that point. So it's, that's just one example. Same thing with your example. I'm pretty sure for a number of years you figured out the science and the art of it to get to that success. And I'm just giving you two examples, but I'm pretty sure there's other examples I can give you. But let me ask you this here: when sales, marketing, and sales call and marketing calls, are they the same thing, or they're like separate things? What are your thoughts on that?
I wonder if that's the way you would define a sales or marketing call. I guess I would look at a marketing call more as, for a simple way of saying, fishing, that you're really finding out, if you have a department just marketing, they're trying to, or they are looking for prospects, for qualified prospects.
Right.
If I'm going to say solar panels, if I'm going to sell you solar panels and you don't even own this house you're in, well, you're not a prospect. You're not the person I need to speak with. Or,
Right.
if you're living in a mobile home, well, you're not a prospect for me. So that's more marketing, is finding, narrowing down that if you have this funnel, so you have 100 people at the top, and maybe 20% of them will most likely be prospects. Your marketing department or telemarketing, they're going to, whittle that down to possible prospects. And then the salesperson would step in and now say, so, Girish, I understand you own your own home, and, we have these solar panels, and then I can start to go into that. So that's probably how I look at more how you separate that. And marketing is also, when you market to someone, it could be attracting them to your product.
So basically, you're saying that the telemarketer just calls anybody, regardless of what they are, and salesperson does their homework that this person is the right fit for that sale or not. Am I right?
That's, when they talk on cold calling for sales, it's a cold call, meaning you don't know if they're a prospect or not. You're just going to call and kind of do that initial marketing and find out. So that's what cold calling is. Then there's warm calling, and warm calling would be in that past scenario I told you, where if they had the marketing department and they found someone who's a prospect, okay, now I know you're warm per se. That you are in the market for this product, and you're a good possibility, or you qualify for me to be able to call on you, because I know you're going to have a need for it. So that's more of looking at the warm, because I've met some sales friends that they love the cold calling part. I'm not in love with the cold calling. I'd rather do a warm call, or referrals, of course, are the best. When I have done a so-called cold call and worked into a warm, yes, I do my research. I'm going to find out, if we're looking at, again, furniture and commercial, I'll see, is the company moving? Okay, they're going to have, they're going to need my services and products. Are they expanding? What is going on with the company? And I've done that a lot, where then I just start calling on them, because I know if they don't need my products or services today, they will eventually, because they're growing.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you again, LeAnn. And one last question, if you don't mind. So when you have all these sales calls, the cold calls and the warm calls, as you have explained, when is the right time, or how many times should the customer or the client should say no? Do you just keep on pushing, or the first time when they say no is just no?
Yeah, that gets back to the sales trainings that we all have. When someone says no, they're just saying not now, or they don't have enough information. And a lot of times that's true. It's also the way you're going to approach this sales relationship. As I discuss with my clients, if they say no, it's more, are you saying no, you don't like what the product looks like, or you don't like the price? What is it that you're saying no to? So a no is more, okay, I need to understand why. And sometimes it does come with price or something else. And I'll ask them, I'm sorry, I could not serve you at this point. It would be helpful to me to understand, if you went a different direction and why, so that I can become better for the next person that I work with.
Sure. So does that sound like, sorry to interrupt you, but does that sound more like fishing to understand the better answer no? What are your thoughts on that?
What I've learned overall in my career, and when you're starting out in sales, to really understand all the objections, which are different forms of no, understanding that and how to overcome it. Because there are a lot of no is maybe someone says no because they don't have enough information. Right. So it is having that question, having that during the presentation, understanding if they're grasping it.
Yeah.
And again, sometimes there's other ways to confirm it. So if I make a statement and I'm not quite sure if you grasp it, I can ask the question, if you understood that, do you have any questions? Does that make sense to you? And once you have that one area resolved, then you can move on to the next in sales.
Yeah, because when it comes to sales and the clients, I think the first tendency for human beings is just no, right? And I think the reason why they say no is because they don't have enough proper information about the product or the company, or even you for that matter. Maybe they know the company, but they don't know you. So it could be many, many different angles, and we should make good relationships with any client before you become more salesy. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. And I think for salespeople, most of us would just appreciate if our prospect or the person in front of us was just direct. Because when someone tries to sell to me, if I really don't like the product, I'll say, I don't care for that because do you have something different, or, whatever it may be. And now all of a sudden they can address that. I've had clients where they're afraid to tell me no. When you hear, I didn't want to say no, or I'm afraid to call them up. I'm like, just if I'm continually following up and you're like, I haven't made a decision yet. If that's true, that's fine. Well, when should I follow up with you again? Should I give you 2 weeks? Okay, great. I'll call you up in 2 weeks. But if you continue to lead me on because you think you're going to hurt my feelings by not telling me, we've gone a different way, or I just don't care for your product, whatever it may be. If you're not honest with me, I'm going to keep following your lead. And then at one point, it's finally like, are you just toying with me? Because I don't do this just for fun. It's also my living, but I'm good at it too. So don't lead me along. And it's, being able to perceive that as well. But there's some people that just have a real difficulty, with that confrontation is how they want to state it. They're going to confront the salesperson and they don't want to hurt their feelings. Every salesperson has been told no. Every salesperson has lost an order. It's just part of the business, just like it's part of, any other career. So we know that. And the salespeople who can't handle it, they go into a different, career, or because sales can be hard. If every time someone tells you no, you wear it on your sleeve and you have difficulty with that, you'll have a hard time in sales.
Totally. Thank you again, LeAnn, for explaining all the sales communications and the probe questions and the relationship between the two parties, because I think that's the way to success, to get a good sales at the end of the day and a good product for the client itself also at the same time.
Right.
So before you leave today, do you have any last words of how your journey was on Back to Basics, and any last words for any of my viewers?
Well, the one thing that we didn't mention is, my book, Sit Your Way to Success. And the subtitle is From Sales Meetings to Dinner Parties, Where You Sit Matters. And where that came out of is, as we're working with sales, start to learn that people sit in certain seats, whether it's around a conference table or in a sales meeting, in a large meeting. And what's interesting is studying all the research. It's all about the psychology of where people sit. And then what the book goes into is how to understand and use that so that you can reach your goal. So if I'm there to sell someone, a lot of times I'm sitting across a desk from you, which isn't an ideal situation to be able to have a comfortable conversation. So there's, and I go through it in the book of, okay, where you can sit. So it's just one more aspect of, okay, understanding where someone's going to sit. If they're at the head of the table, that tells me something about them. And it's fascinating stuff because it's just all human nature. So the more additional little tips and tricks that you can apply to your sales, why not? Because we talked earlier that sales is art and it's also science. And when you understand both and can dance with them both, that's when it's fun. Because once I've closed a sale, and especially when I can see the end result and the client's happy, it's their work environment's efficient, whatever sale may be, if I coach someone on being better at their presentation and now they're more confident and making more sales, that's that gratifying for me, but I'm also so happy for my clients. So that's to me where the fun comes in. It doesn't happen overnight, and I'm continually studying to be better and better. And I am here on this podcast to perhaps help others so that maybe they don't have to spend the 20, 30 years to figure it out. They can look over some of these tools and information out there and get there faster.
Yeah. Thank you again, LeAnn, for explaining what you do and what this book is all about. And I'm definitely going to grab that book for myself to, I guess, to be a good salesperson or a good communicator, actually, because I think there are both ways for that book to have a definition, not only about sales. So thank you again for explaining that. And thank you for being on the show and giving me the support on this small podcast that I have called Back2Basics. So thank you again, LeAnn.
Yeah, and thanks for the invite. And I appreciate all your questions. It's always great to have, so many times we're in our own career and little world for so long, we forget what other people look at it and what questions. So I loved your questions, a lot of challenging ones, but very great ones. So thank you for that. And thanks for inviting me. I've enjoyed it. And I hope your listeners do as well. It gives them something different to think about.
Absolutely. Thank you again, LeAnn. And
thank you.
God bless. Thank you. So guys, we spoke with LeAnn today and we talked about the basics of sales, communication, cold call, warm call, and there are many, many other words that we have mentioned on this episode today. And hopefully you have enjoyed most of this with sales and communication. And there are two more words, science and art. So those are the words that we have talked about today. Follow those through, get her book, try to figure out the tips of how to communicate with people. Forget about from the sales point, but at least communication is the big key that I've learned out of this whole episode. So as usual, as always, there's a quote a day and from Back2Basics, and hopefully my guest will like the quote from today. And the quote is, always do your best. What you plant now, you will harvest later. Because you know what? You plan it out, communicate with people, and I swear to God, that's the name of the game, to harvest later, which is success. So guys, as usual, as always, what do I always say at the end of the episode? Everything in life goes back to basics, and that's what we did today, guys. Keep on commenting as much as you can, good, bad, ugly, either way. It'll make my show stronger day by day, week by week. And there are three things that this episode and every episode of mine makes a success: the content, the guest, and definitely the host. Guys, take care, God bless, and I'll see you next week. Next week's episode on Back2Basics.
The smallest, because you'll get that one done fast, and now you only have two, and you feel better about yourself because now you had, 6 months ago or 3 months ago, you had 3 credit cards, and now you only have 2. Okay.
But the thing is that I'm living paycheck to paycheck. How can I pay that off? Because the balance is way higher than my actual limit, basic monthly minimum payment. What are your thoughts on that?
There's always a way. I believe that there is always a way. We get stuck within the time frame. I need to do it by this date. I love calculators that show you how quickly you're going to pay something off, but there's a